Hey guys, how are you doing today? My name is Manav and I took a gender studies class. Now I know what you might be thinking. What? Watch out, Manav, that's some liberal propaganda. Or hey, watch out, that's Sleepy Joe right in your closet. No, that's not that's not what it is. But no, actually, I took a gender studies class for 9 weeks at UCLA, and I actually had somewhat of a critical thinking thought process, like wow, oh wow, that what's happening to a world moment while I was taking it. And honestly, I want to kind of discuss a bit of what I worked on or what I studied uh, during these past 9 weeks in this gender studies course. And yeah, I felt like this is a great way to actually talk about it. So I know you might have clicked on this thumbnail reading being like, oh wow, look, a UCLA student is going to start dissing on gender studies. Well, man, not man. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But basically, through this video, I plan to actually summarize some important concepts that I actually learned in gender studies, and I'll discuss whether it's actually going to be an important course or not to take as an undergrad. So basically, a general outline of what we will be discussing today will probably be two critical things, two topics that we studied in depth in gender studies. Sit back and enjoy the show. Okay, so first topic, gender. What is sex? What is gender? And honestly, many of us believe that these two terms are pretty synonymous, but they actually aren't. And we find that sex is basically what we are biologically. So we have a mother, right? When she gives birth, the doctor's like, oh look, it's a boy. Oh look, it's a girl. Oh look, it's an intersex. So basically it's a predetermined sex. So that is something that we cannot actually control. It's biological. And look, as a pre-med student, as someone who aspires to be a doctor, so that is what you end up filling out on that form. It's like, what's your sex? Male, female, and intersex. But that's not to be confused as gender. See, gender is super fluid. And yes, I know what you might be thinking. It's, Tumblr being like, oh wow, we have 76 different genders? And yeah, there are more now, but it's what people feel, what people want to be. See, the thing is that there are so many different types of genders, and it's what we explore the world to find out who we are. See, gender can be considered a social construct, and people can choose their genders as they grow and change in our society. We are still determining who we are right from the get-go, and it's our job to explore the world and understand ourselves the best we can. So, one aspect of ourselves that we need to learn about is gender. Like, what am I? Who am I? I mean, you can identify as whatever you want to be. You can be, if I was let's say born a male and I feel like a female, I can identify as a female or as a woman, or vice versa. Or hey, let's take the binary stuff out of the way. I can identify as an attack helicopter. No, but that's offensive, but it's true. It is true. We can identify as whatever we want to be, and that's the beauty of it. It's a social construct. It's fluid. We can be whatever we want to be. And how amazing is that? The thing is that our gender in society is unfortunately hierarchical. So what you identify it as is what you will be seen as, and it's going to be placed on, a hierarchy. Yeah, that looked like a pyramid scheme, but that's not what it is. It's a hierarchical pyramid. So, for example, we can talk about opportunities for men and women. The classic example of the glass ceiling versus the glass elevator. And what we see is that the glass ceiling is a metaphor for women who want to go into these big industries, who want to climb that ladder, right, of the corporate ladder, but they can't. They hit a wall, they hit a ceiling. and they just try to go higher and higher and higher, but they just can't. That's because of their gender. They're born a woman, they identify as a woman, and that's it. They can't go higher. That's why many of these top businesses are led by men, and only a very small percentage are led by women. And of course, if we take the binary out of it all, we can basically see that it's really just men, women. It's hard to find people, in the the other fluidity of gender, like to actually have these powerful positions in corporate America. So yeah, it is somewhat hierarchical. And what we see is that on the other hand, there's a glass elevator. Men who actually are in lower position jobs, such as teaching, or school teacher, in like grade school, or like a daycare center or something. Basically, they're advised to go up in management. And what happens is that it's easier for them to climb up the ladder. So that's why we actually see a lot of male professors in universities and a lot of female teachers in grade school. So, of course, this type of like higher, lower position of men higher, women lower, and binary people even lower than that most of the time, it's basically due to the prominence of patriarchal society, which was kind of influenced by the West, by Europe. And like there are all that, movement, colonizing, imperialism, all that awful stuff that happened years back. And what we see is that, men tend to be in power, in government, while women are just excluded. They're to be protected, you gotta be the man in it, man about it. But basically, so that's what it is. That's what the patriarchy does. And although this idea is slowly changing as more women are going to STEM and other prominent fields, So next I want to talk about how our society views each other as heteronormative or cisnormative. And basically these concepts tend to be pretty prominent in like our patriarchal or society, or in America in general, or actually pretty much throughout the entire world. It's kind of hard to find people assuming that like someone else is part of the LGBTQAS2 plus spectrum or whatever that is. But so we end up like thinking of each other as straight people. It's like, oh look, I see a guy. He's probably attracted to a girl. Oh look, I see a girl. She's probably attracted to a guy. So we don't end up thinking like, oh wow, she might be a lesbian, or he might be gay, or they might be, whatever gender they want to be. We end up thinking just, attraction, opposite, binary. And that's what, basically that assumption is what heteronormativity is. And honestly, growing up in like Indian culture in New Jersey, where a lot of brown people happen to be, that's what it was, right? It was a really heteronormative view, and everyone was expected to get a girlfriend or a boyfriend, if they were a male, female, respectively. And that's how it was. But I mean, that's not how it is. There are many people that just aren't attracted to the opposite binary gender, and it's just that we don't realize that, which is kind of weird. Honestly, I'm thinking maybe it's because just like we don't see that many people that do express that type of, non-conformative ideology of just not being attracted to the other binary gender. And honestly, I think that's kind of why these like pride parades or this pride representation is very important, because it's actually getting the news out that, these people exist. And they matter because, they're human beings and they have their own preferences. So that's, heteronormativity. And cisnormativity is that everyone just likes the opposite sex on a binary scale. So these two terms do go hand in hand. And basically, these concepts are normalized, and normalizing these concepts, what they end up doing is that they create some sort of fear of the unknown and the non-conformity around us. And it's like, wait, fear? Why would we fear like the not unknowing. So basically, this type of fear is characterized as like transphobia, homophobia, gynophobia, and yeah, this is just like really popular in society, which is not great. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Why would I fear gay people? Like, they're not going to do anything to me. Well, it's more that we tend to suppress the unknown and make it known. So it's like a power move. So, like, let's say it's like the same thing that Christians did back then during the Crusades, where they went out to different areas, to different lands, and just, casually either converted people in other lands to Christianity, or, just killed them. It's a power move. Or it's basically like the US government continuing taking natives from their lands and forcing them to adopt American culture. Settlers colonialism, imperialism, power move. You know what? Let's just kill people that we don't like or we fear. And you might be like thinking of like, what? Why fear? Why do we fear? Like, what's fear them? Like, we don't actually fear them. We just don't know them, and that's why we want to like kick them out and we want to exclude them. Oh wait, no, that's fear. No, not fear. Maybe we want to just like, okay, so we know that they're there. We'll just ignore them. And yeah, that happens, right? So we can ignore them. But the problem is that a lot of people just don't do that. They just hate homosexuality or transsexuals and all of these type of different people. But why? Why do they do that? Well, a big source is probably because of religion, and that in the Bible it says that like, we must marry to produce children. That's the main goal of marriage. Of course, that's not the actual case, and that there are different interpretations of the Bible, as well as any other religious text. But the reason why we use fear is because that's what it is. It's fear. It's basically the desire to exclude because you don't want them near you. That's fear. We basically, as a community, we fear people of the unknown. And that's why it's so important for the unknown, basically the others, the people on the LGBTQIA2S+, organization, everything like that, all these people, to actually be more accepted in our society. So yeah, so that's what it is. It's basically fear. And the thing is that this fear ends up turning to hatred. Now, yeah, so basically that's why we end up doing this thing. Okay, so to move from that topic, right, to this, I just presented like the basis of gender studies. So what is sex? What is gender? We did that. Now I want to go into the second topic, and that's intersectionality and oppression. So gender studies is not only about the study of sex and gender, as what they would normally imply, but it is the study of different groups and how they are impacted by governance and social norms. So the thing is that in society there are social norms and there are taboos and there are other things, but we're not talking about those other things, but basically we're talking about taboos. And unfortunately in our society, taboos are prominent in places of non-conformative people. For example, like black people, right? So please, YouTube, do not demonetize me for saying black people, but they have been historically oppressed in the United States, even after the horrific events of slavery, which were really bad, by the way. Like these people have often been kicked to the curb by our prominent white society. Now, before you call me like a white hating person, don't worry, I have a lot of white friends. It's not about that. Don't worry, white people love me. But the thing is that you gotta think about situations such as through redlining, gentrification, and the general discrimination through social interactions and media. Like these black population can never be as influential or as as outspoken as white people. The thing is that I was watching this YouTuber called Jarvis Johnson, and he was talking about how he orders Ubers, and then right when he tries to get into the Uber driver drives away. Yeah, Jarvis Johnson's black, but turns out that's a common thing. Well, we don't even. I had no idea about it until I heard him until I actually watched his video and heard him talk about it. How insane is that? Like, you call a cab and they just drive away because of your race, because they have a certain stereotype about you. Like, that's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And it's just a horrible thing that just goes on. And it's not only black people. Of course, black people get the brunt of it. It really is horrible to be black in America. It really sucks. But it is how it is. And other minorities also face discrimination. Hell, I've faced discrimination. Although maybe not, or definitely not to the extent as many black people do. But I definitely have. I'm a brown person. I've been called a terrorist. Literally, after I got my driver's license, one of my friends was like, "Oh, who is that? Osama bin Laden?" It was insane. Well, I mean, that was a joke, but still, things like that happen. So yeah, that's things that over time, this sentiment doesn't stop at black people. Women, people of color, like non-heteronormative people, and other non-cis-normative people are all pretty much oppressed differently than white men. Now, again, I'm not saying that all white men are evil, right? They're not all evil. I swear, I have white friends. Now, I'm just talking about trends. Historically, and even today, many large corporations are run by powerful white men. Out of the 46 presidents of the United States, only 2 were non-white, and they were both elected recently. One was black and one was orange. So, yeah, there's a clear power structure in play, where white men are, at the top. And, well, others are at the bottom. And these white men at the top, they're holding control. They're holding the reins. They're holding on us tightly. And they're basically not letting go of their position. Basically, actually, this type of control is very historically accurate. I've studied, for example, the Spanish people and the Spanish actually coming to the Southern Americas. And when they started ruling, all the Americas, all the Southern Americas, what happened was that their population percentage was like 1 to 90 to the native people. But what was fascinating is that even though they were in control, that they were like 10 to 90, sorry, not 10 to 90, basically they were still afraid of a race war. Even though they had like all the weapons, all the advanced weapons, all the political power, they were still scared that they were going to be outmatched in a race war by people who they're, holding captive, who they're casually massacring. It's horrible, but that's what this type of mentality is, and it always was. So basically, trying to hold on to that power and trying to discriminate and oppress people of the other, such as minorities or immigrants that are coming to this country. Yeah, white people stay in power even though their majority population is declining over time, and they fear that. And it's not like you might be a white person watching this, and of course you may not fear it, but there are many people who do. There are many people in power who actually do. And that's just the scary thing about it. So yeah, that's it. So what they do is that they do many things such as controlling the media and law in contemporary modern America. And basically that way these men can keep us oppressed in their own homes. And what's worse is that the more diverse we are, the worse that oppression is. And I know this is a bit forced, but this is my segue to intersectionality. So, yeah, that's the second topic. So basically, intersectionality describes how different forms of oppression, such as racism, sexism, classism, ableism, homophobia, transphobia, intersex, and others, and basically they interact and intersect. So basically, think of like a graph, and there's like this line of oppression, this line of oppression, this line of oppression, and look, they're all intersecting into one person. So this person basically gets the oppression of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all these different things that they identify as. Basically, people in this intersecting sphere actually experience multiple forms of oppression that are interconnected and cannot be understood in isolation. So basically, for example, a black, gay immigrant from Iran trying to be a mother in modern America has like 5 different forms of oppression that are all coming together and giving them an experience that they probably hate. So that's what intersectionality basically sums up to be. So another example will be black women who have historically been kept out of the public view despite being involved in many cases of police brutality. So, for example, we can recognize names in media such as George Floyd and Mike Brown, but I mean, I don't think anyone's really heard of Tanisha Anderson or Gabriela Navarez. These are also black women who were involved in police brutality and were killed by the police. But while now they're also prosecuted due to racist stereotypes that, plague our community, these women don't even get the opportunity to have their names remembered by us, the general population, or even people of color. And a lot of that is due to the control of media that white people have on America, on modern America. Actually, I encourage you to watch a film by Noam Chomsky. Basically, he talks about how media has a very good way of controlling our thoughts and opinions of what we say, what we do, and what we feel. And people who deviate from what people controlling the media want people like us to feel are neglected or attacked by media sources. So basically, this video is going to be in the description below, but I do recommend you watch it. Now, although I sounded super sure about what I talked about today, I honestly wasn't at first. And I'll be honest, I took this class as a general education credit required by UCLA. Yeah, we're required to take 9 classes that we need to graduate. And I was like, okay, we'll just take this one. And this will fill the requirements. I was like, hey, why not? It's a free credit right before I graduate. And yeah, so I basically started sitting all the way at the back of the room of the lecture hall. And I really didn't care about what was going on in lecture. However, as I overheard the lecture and these ideas that my professor discussed, these ideas, they started ricocheting in my head. At first I was like, no, men do not care about masculinity. Why would they care about that? They have other things to worry about, dating women. Also, I want to go to medicine. Why should I care about the difference between sex and gender? All that matters is sex. I don't care about pronouns. Who needs pronouns? I don't have pronouns. I don't. But as I continue to think about these topics, I realized is a much larger world exists outside my simple social sphere. I am this is me, and the world is larger than my room. I did not realize that there was so much more going on. And me being part of the scientific community is this versus this. I was clueless. Basically, yeah, there are many problems in the world that need to be addressed way more than we are addressing them. For example, there's a whole rhetoric said by the US, by the US government, or propaganda by the US of the Muslim woman. You might be thinking like, okay, so what's the first thing that you think of when you see a Muslim woman, or when you hear was like the word Muslim woman? Hijab, oppression. Wow, these women are oppressed in their country. Then you're like, okay, at least I'm not in that country. I'm not in Iran, right? I am a woman. I am not, but let's say I was. I am a woman in America, and I am not oppressed because I'm not as oppressed as she is. Now, that distinction right there is what many people see. See, the thing is that if the grass is worse on the other lawn, that doesn't mean your grass is great. All right? So, yes, many people are still oppressed in modern America, and we don't even realize that we are. Like, how insane is that? We don't even realize that we're oppressed, that we're not living the life that we should be. Like, that's mind-boggling, honestly. But yeah, so honestly, after thinking about this type of stuff, I started thinking critically, really critically, about my own life, and realized I was selfish and ignorant. I was stupid to stay inside my closed circle and guarded against like the reality of the like situation by the right-wing rhetoric and about the uselessness of gender studies degrees and like the greatness of the capitalistic land, the free that it has to me. Yeah, so I was like, yeah, go Trump, but no, now I'm like, maybe not. Yeah, so after reflecting on it, I'm so glad that I took this course. And it really opened my eyes to those like shoved aside from the spotlight our society actually shines in. Of course, I can't agree with some topics in this class. For example, like in one of our discussion sections where basically, so like the course is what, like 100 people, and in discussion sections that's like cut down to 10 to 15. So in these sections we were discussing how mothers should be paid for raising the children. And honestly, as the physical conservative I am, I was like, no, that makes no sense in the economy. But I was like, so basically I was like, okay guys, who thinks this is a good idea for mothers to get, paid? And literally the whole class was like, yeah, okay. And then who thinks it's not a good idea? And literally I was the only one who raised my hands. So I was like, oh shoot, that's not the popular opinion. But the thing is that that's okay. Honestly, yeah, it didn't offend me. It didn't hurt. Like, yeah, I was in disagreement, and I still am. I don't think it's a possible opportunity for us, especially with inflation going on and many other economic down slopes that the United States is going through. Yeah, so honestly, yeah, we have until July to get this national debt figured out. I don't think we can start paying mothers by then. But other than that, so yeah, there are things that we can disagree on, and again, that's totally fine. As long as you really critically thought about it, no one will ostracize you if you have different beliefs. And honestly, having different beliefs is the whole idea of what this class is about, to make you think. That's what it is. It's not any rhetoric. It's not any brainwashing. It's to make you think. What is going on in our world? Why are we so wound up about issues that don't even affect us? That are, kind of stupid. Like, why do people hate gay people? There's no reason. But whatever. It is what it is. It's like, it makes us think. Why? Why are we doing this? And asking why is something a lot of us have forgotten to do as we grow up. Like, I remember reading a study that the children, they're naturally inquisitive, they're curious, they're always asking why. But as we grow and grow, we start to assume, and we just start to normalize things. We don't ask why, we just say okay. And I think that's wrong. It is wrong. Why are we not questioning what is going on in our society and what really affects us in the end? So the thing is that, yeah, that's what this class is about, to ask why. And honestly, I really recommend anyone out there, if they have the opportunity to do so, to take a gender studies course. It sounds lame, I know, and I have no idea why it sounds lame. Hey, why does it sound lame? But it's important. It actually is. And if you don't see that, I really hope you reconsider. But yeah, so actually, that's the end of the video. So I discussed a tiny part of what our entire class discovered in this video. And honestly, if this kind of blows up, I'm down to discuss a part 2. So yeah, alright, thanks, and yeah, I'll catch you guys later. See ya.